John Miller wiped the grease from his hands as the sun began to set on New Centauri. The repair shop was quiet except for the hum of the cooling system and the occasional ping from the old metal sign outside. 5 years on this colony, and he still felt like a stranger. He picked up the power converter he'd been fixing and inspected his work. Perfect, as always. His customers never complained about his repairs. They always lasted longer than factory parts. The skills he'd learned as a military engineer served him well in civilian life. John locked the front door of his shop and dimmed the lights. Another day done. Nothing special, nothing different, just the way he liked it. From the window of a building across the street, a figure watched John through specialized optics. The creature's 12 eyes blinked in sequence as it observed its target. Zarketh of the Skriel Collective had traveled 18 star systems to find this human. The bounty was substantial, enough credits to buy a small moon in the outer territories. Target confirmed, Zarketh whispered into its communication device. The translator converted the clicks and hisses of its native language into standard Galactic. The human appears ordinary, no visible security. This will be simple, a raspy voice answered. Do not underestimate this one. Remember what he did to the Orvelian fleet. Zarketh's breathing slits flared with irritation. That was 5 years ago. He is soft now, a mere repair shop worker. Complete the contract. No mistakes, the voice warned before cutting the connection. John walked to his small apartment 3 blocks from the shop. The streets were mostly empty as colony residents headed home for the evening meal. He nodded to Mrs. Garcia, the baker, who lived in the apartment below his. She smiled and offered him a fresh roll, still warm. You work too hard, John, she said, her wrinkled face showing concern. All day in that shop, then home alone. You need a life. John smiled and took the bread. This is the life I want, Mrs. Garcia, simple, quiet. A man with your skills could do more, she replied. My son works at the spaceport, says they always need good engineers. John's smile tightened a little. I'm happy fixing things that don't fly into war zones. Mrs. Garcia shrugged and continued to her apartment. John climbed the stairs to his, every step careful and measured. Old habits, always aware of his surroundings. Inside, John's apartment was neat and minimally furnished. A small kitchen area, a living space with one comfortable chair facing a window with a view of the colony's central district, and a bedroom with a simple bed. The only personal touch was a small metal box on his bedside table. John sat in his chair and ate the roll while watching the lights of the colony come on as darkness fell. This was his routine every evening. Peaceful. Predictable. He didn't know that across 3 different planets his name had been spoken with both fear and excitement over the past week. The bounty on his head had finally reached the right circles, those who specialized in difficult eliminations. On Nexus, the shadow planet where deals were made in darkness, 3 killers had accepted the contract. Each was famous in their own way. Each had never failed a mission. The human known as John Miller had destroyed 3 Orvelian dreadnoughts during the conflict, killing thousands of their warriors. He had found a weakness in their reactor design that no one else had noticed. A weakness he exploited with brutal efficiency. The Orvelians had spent 5 years tracking him down, 5 years planning their revenge. The bounty specified that his death should be painful, recorded, and the evidence sent back to Orvelian High Command. As John prepared for bed, he had no idea that Zarketh was already setting up surveillance around his shop. The assassin's poisonous appendages twitched with anticipation. Tomorrow night the human would die. John Miller slept soundly, dreaming of Earth's oceans that he hadn't seen in a decade. In his dreams, he was never running from anything. He was never hiding. He was just swimming in peaceful blue waters, far from the stars and the wars that raged among them. The tavern on Nexus had no name, only a faded symbol of a broken moon on its door. Inside, the air was thick with smoke from substances illegal in most systems. 3 figures sat at a corner table, away from curious eyes and listening devices. Zarketh's 12 eyes darted nervously around the room. The Skriel assassin's exoskeleton gleamed dully in the low light. Across from him sat Malvarix, who currently wore the form of a tall, thin humanoid with pale blue skin. The shapeshifter's true form was unknown, which made him perfect for infiltration missions. The third figure was mostly machine. Dexra had replaced over 80% of her original body with cybernetic parts. Her eyes glowed a soft red as data scrolled across her vision. "I leave for New Centauri tonight," Zarketh said, mandibles clicking. "The human will be dead within 2 solar cycles." Malvarix's form rippled slightly, a sign of amusement. "Why are we all hired for one simple human?" "It seems excessive," Dexra's mechanical voice answered. "This human is John Miller. 5 years ago, during the Terran-Orvelian conflict, he destroyed 3 dreadnoughts and killed over 6,000 Orvelian warriors." "How?" Malvarix asked, suddenly interested. "He discovered a design flaw in their reactor shielding," Dexra explained. "He created a simple device that caused the reactors to overload. The Orvelians never saw it coming." Zarketh made a dismissive gesture with one of his poisonous limbs. "That was during war. He was a soldier then. Now he fixes machines in a small shop. He is nothing." "Humans are never nothing," Dexra said flatly. "Their history is filled with stories of their kind surviving against impossible odds. They evolved as prey animals who became apex predators through intelligence and tool use." "You sound afraid," Zarketh mocked. "I am cautious," Dexra replied. "The client is paying us each enough to live in luxury for decades. They clearly respect this human's capabilities." The shadowy figure who had arranged the meeting finally spoke from the darkness beyond their table. "The plan is simple. You will not attack together. Zarketh goes first. If he fails, Malvarix moves in. Dexra will observe and only engage if necessary." "Why not just bomb his home from orbit?" Malvarix asked. "The client wants confirmation. They want evidence of his suffering before death. They want him to know why he is dying," the shadowy figure explained. Zarketh stood, his tall form unfolding. "I will not fail. My venom paralyzes the victim but keeps them conscious. He will feel everything as I harvest his organs one by one." After the meeting, Dexra approached Malvarix outside the tavern. "The Skrill is overconfident." Malvarix nodded. "Agreed. What do you know about humans that you didn't share?" "They are the only species known to actively seek out danger for recreation. They call it extreme sports or adventure. They deliberately place themselves in situations where their survival is not guaranteed," Dexra said. "And Miller was one of their military engineers. Those are the humans who build weapons and find new ways to kill." "You think he's dangerous," Malvarix observed. "I think anyone who destroyed 3 dreadnoughts with a homemade device deserves respect," Dexra replied. Meanwhile, on the transport ship to New Centauri, Zarketh studied the file on John Miller. The human looked so ordinary in the images. Average height, average build, brown hair starting to gray at the temples. No visible cybernetic enhancements, no notable physical advantages. Zarketh felt even more confident. His species was naturally faster and stronger than humans. His exoskeleton could stop most projectiles. His venom could kill a creature 3 times his size. What chance did a simple human have? As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Zarketh began preparing his weapons. His favorite was a thin, curved blade designed specifically for human anatomy. It could slide between ribs and pierce the heart with minimal resistance. The Orvelians would pay extra for the heart. They wanted to display it as a trophy in their war museum, a reminder of the human who had caused them so much pain. John Miller yawned as he looked at the clock on his shop wall, almost closing time. The day had been busy with customers bringing in everything from broken kitchen appliances to damaged hover scooters. His hands were stained with grease and his back ached from bending over workbenches all day. "Last one," he muttered to himself as he finished repairing a child's toy robot. The little machine's eyes lit up blue as it came back to life. John smiled, feeling satisfied. He enjoyed fixing things, giving broken objects new life. It was peaceful work, unlike his past. As John began cleaning his tools, he heard a soft noise from the back of the shop. It sounded like the rear door opening. He frowned. That door was always locked after supply deliveries. "Hello?" John called out. "Shop's closing. Come around to the front if you need something." No answer came. Just another soft sound, like something sliding across the floor. John put down his cleaning rag and picked up a heavy socket wrench from his workbench. Probably just the wind, he told himself. Or maybe that stray cat that sometimes prowled the alley. Still, old habits from his military days kicked in. Always be prepared. He moved quietly toward the back of the shop, staying close to the wall. The lights were dimmer here, with shadows cast by tall shelves filled with spare parts. John's grip tightened on the wrench. From the darkness, something launched at him, fast. Too fast to see clearly. John's body reacted before his mind could process what was happening. He ducked and swung the wrench in a wide arc. There was a sickening crack as metal met exoskeleton. A high-pitched shriek filled the shop. The attacker stumbled backward into a shaft of light from a street lamp outside. John saw it clearly now. Over 7 feet tall, insect-like with multiple limbs and a dozen eyes arranged in a circle on its head. Green ichor dripped from a crack in its chest plate. What the hell? John gasped, backing away. He had never seen this species before, even during his time with Earth Force. The creature hissed something in a language John didn't understand. Then it rushed at him again, this time with 2 limbs extended. Something gleamed at their tips. Probably blades or stingers. John's military training took over completely. He grabbed a canister of compressed air from a nearby shelf and sprayed it directly into the creature's many eyes. The alien screeched and clawed at its face. John followed with a powerful swing of the wrench, aiming for the crack he'd already made. The wrench connected with a crunch. The creature stumbled, blue-green fluid leaking from the wound. It looked at John with what might have been surprise before it turned and scrambled out the back door, leaving a trail of glowing blue drops behind. John stood frozen, heart pounding, wrench still raised. What had just happened? A robbery gone wrong? Some kind of alien junkie looking for valuable parts to sell? He lowered the wrench slowly and noticed his hands were shaking. It had been 5 years since he'd been in combat. 5 years of peaceful work and quiet evenings. Now this. Moving carefully, John checked the rest of the shop, then locked the back door properly. He found a small device attached to the lock, something that had bypassed his security system. This was no random break-in. Blue fluid stained the floor where the creature had stood. John dipped his finger in it and brought it closer to examine. It glowed faintly and had the consistency of thick oil. Definitely not from any local species. John cleaned up the blue fluid, his mind racing. Should he report this to colonial security? They would ask questions he didn't want to answer, questions about his past, about why an alien would target his specific shop. No, better to handle this quietly. It was probably just a thief who had picked the wrong target. Still, as John finished closing the shop, he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was happening. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows of John's repair shop. He had barely slept, his mind replaying the strange attack over and over. The socket wrench that had saved his life now sat on his workbench, clean of the blue fluid. The door chimed as someone entered. John looked up to see a woman in the gray uniform of colonial security. Her badge read Officer Lucy Daniels. She was tall, with short brown hair and alert eyes that took in everything about the shop in seconds. "Mr. Miller?" "I'm Officer Daniels. There was a report of a disturbance here last night." John tensed. He hadn't called security. "Who reported it?" "Your neighbor across the street said they heard unusual noises." Lucy pulled out a small device and tapped on it. "Mind if I look around?" John nodded reluctantly. "Just a break-in attempt. Nothing was stolen." Lucy walked slowly through the shop, her device occasionally beeping. When she reached the back door, the beeping increased. She knelt down and examined the lock. "This was bypassed with military-grade tech," she said, looking up at John with new interest. "Not your average thief." John shrugged. "Maybe they thought I keep valuable parts here." Lucy stood and continued her inspection. When she reached the spot where the alien had bled, her device beeped rapidly. She knelt again and ran her finger over the floor. You cleaned something up here. It wasn't a question. John hesitated. Spilled some oil. Lucy gave him a long look. Mr. Miller, I have training in xenobiology. Whatever was spilled here isn't oil. It's hemolymph, alien blood. John's face revealed nothing, but his mind raced. This officer was more observant than he expected. Want to tell me what really happened? Lucy asked, putting away her device. John sighed. Someone broke in, not human. I fought it off with a wrench. It ran away. And you didn't report this because I don't like attention. Lucy nodded slowly. The strange thing is, no other businesses were targeted last night, just yours. She paused. I checked our systems. You've been on New Centauri for 5 years. Before that, Earth Force. John's jaw tightened. That was another life. Was it? Lucy asked. Because my scanner shows traces of Skrill hemolymph. The Skrill Collective doesn't send its members out this far for random burglaries. John remained silent. Lucy continued. I also found this outside. She held up a small metal device. It disabled the security cameras on this street. Very professional. She put the device away and looked directly at John. Whatever you were involved in before coming here has followed you. This wasn't a robbery attempt. John met her gaze. What do you think it was? I think someone sent an assassin after you. The word hung in the air between them. John's mind flashed back to the Orwellian conflict, to the faces of alien soldiers as their ships exploded. If you're right, John said carefully, then more could come. Lucy nodded. I should report this to my superiors. But you haven't yet, John observed. No. Lucy looked thoughtful. Something tells me there's more to this story and to you. She took out a card and placed it on the counter. My private comm code. If anything else happens, call me directly. After she left, John sat heavily on his stool. His quiet life was unraveling fast. If Lucy was right about the Skrill, this was serious. The Skrill Collective were known assassins throughout the galaxy. John opened a hidden panel in the wall behind his workbench. Inside was a small box containing a blaster he hadn't touched in years. He checked its charge. Still good. As he closed the panel, his comm unit buzzed with a customer message. Someone needed a hover cycle repaired. John almost laughed at how normal it seemed. Fix a hover cycle while alien assassins might be hunting him. He sent a confirmation message. Better to maintain his routine, but from now on the blaster would be close at hand. 3 days passed without incident. John kept his shop open but watched every customer carefully. The blaster stayed hidden under his workbench within easy reach. Each night, he set up simple alarm systems around his apartment, strings with metal parts attached that would make noise if disturbed. Old tricks from his military days. The hovercycle customer had said they would pick up their repaired vehicle today. John wiped his hands on a rag as the shop door opened. A tall, thin man with unusually pale skin walked in. Something about the way he moved seemed off to John, too fluid and precise. I'm here for the hovercycle, the man said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. John nodded and gestured to the repaired vehicle. Just finished it this morning. Want to test it before paying? I trust your work, the man said, coming closer. I heard you're the best repair technician in the colony. John moved behind his workbench, keeping some distance between them. Who told you that? Word gets around. The man circled the hovercycle, running his hand along its frame. Beautiful machine. You must understand how things work very well. It's my job, John replied, watching the man's every move. Like you understood how Orwellian reactors worked, Lieutenant Miller? John froze. The man knew who he was. The pale stranger smiled again, and this time his face seemed to shift slightly, the features becoming less distinct. You're not human, John said quietly. No, and you're not just a repair technician. The man's arm suddenly stretched and morphed into a blade. He lunged across the hovercycle at John with impossible speed. John dove to the side, the blade slicing across his shoulder instead of his chest. Pain flared as blood soaked his shirt. John rolled under the workbench and grabbed his blaster. He fired twice, but the shapeshifter was already moving, its body flowing like liquid around the energy bolts. "The Orvelians paid well for your death," the creature said, its voice changing to a deeper pitch. "But I would have taken this job for free. Humans have always fascinated me. So fragile yet so dangerous." John scrambled behind a large engine block as the shapeshifter attacked again. His mind raced. How do you fight something that can change its form? Then he remembered his Earth Force training on non-standard combatants. Destabilize molecular shifters with extreme temperature changes. John grabbed a canister of compressed air from a shelf. When the shapeshifter came around the engine block, John sprayed the freezing gas directly into its face. The creature screamed as parts of its features crystallized. John followed by grabbing a power cell from the hover cycle and pressing it against the creature's chest. He activated the cell's emergency discharge function. Electricity surged through the shapeshifter's body. The creature convulsed violently, its form rippling and bulging in unnatural ways. Parts of it seemed to melt, while others hardened. With a howl that sounded like multiple voices screaming at once, it retreated toward the door. "This isn't over, human," it gurgled before escaping into the street. John slumped against the wall, breathing hard. His shoulder throbbed. This was the second assassination attempt in less than a week. This wasn't random. Someone had found him, likely the Orvelians seeking revenge. He pulled out the card Officer Daniels had given him and activated his comm unit. When she answered, her face showed immediate concern. "You're bleeding," she said. "Another visitor," John replied grimly. "Not the same as before. This one could change its shape. It knew who I am, what I did during the war. Said the Orvelians paid for my death." Lucy's expression hardened. "Stay there. Lock your doors, I'm coming to get you." "Where are we going?" John asked, pressing a clean rag to his wound. "Somewhere safe," Lucy answered. "My brother's farm outside the colony. He's also Earth Force, former infantry." John nodded. It was time to stop running from his past. Whatever was coming next, he wouldn't face it alone. Lucy drove her security vehicle fast through the colony streets. John sat in the passenger seat, his shoulder bandaged. With a medical patch she had brought, the wound stung, but the bleeding had stopped. "My brother Ryan has 5 acres outside the main settlement," Lucy explained. "Used to be a defense outpost during the early colony days. Still has some of the old security measures." John nodded. "Good thinking. How much did you tell him?" "Just that you're in trouble and your former Earth Force, that's all he needed to know." Lucy glanced at him. "Though I think it's time you tell me the whole story." The vehicle left the paved roads and moved onto a dirt path. Fields of blue-green crops stretched around them. In the distance, a small house sat on a hill. "During the Orvelian conflict, I was stationed on the engineering deck of the battlecruiser Horizon," John began. "We captured an Orvelian scout ship. I was assigned to study their technology." "And you found something," Lucy guessed. "A design flaw in their reactor shielding. If you hit it with the right frequency, it would create a chain reaction." John's voice grew quiet. "I developed a small device that could be attached to their hulls. Once activated, it would send that frequency straight into the reactor core. And it worked," Lucy said. "Too well. The first dreadnought we targeted exploded so violently it damaged 2 others nearby. When they tried emergency jumps, their reactors were already compromised. All 3 ships were lost with over 6,000 Orvelians aboard." Lucy whistled, softly. "No wonder they want you dead." "After the war, some human officials wanted to use my device on civilian Orvelian ships." John's face hardened. "I refused. Then my schematics mysteriously vanished from secure storage. I knew what that meant." "So you disappeared too," Lucy finished for him. "Changed my name, moved to the outer colonies. Thought I'd left it all behind." They arrived at the farmhouse. A tall man with a military bearing stood on the porch, a rifle held casually in his hands. Ryan Daniels had the same alert eyes as his sister, but with more lines around them. His hair was gray at the temples. "This your friend in trouble?" Ryan called as they exited the vehicle. Lucy nodded. "Ryan, meet John Miller. John, my brother Ryan." Ryan looked John over with an experienced eye. "Earth Force?" "Engineering Corps," John replied. "Infantry," Ryan said with a nod. "Come inside. Place is secure." The farmhouse was simple but comfortable. Maps and tactical displays covered one wall. Weapons were mounted in locked cabinets. It reminded John of an officer's quarters on a military base. "Lucy sent me what she found at your shop," Ryan said, bringing up images on a screen. "The blue blood matches Skrill biology. And your description of the second attacker sounds like a Voldaran shapeshifter. Both are elite assassins," Lucy added. "They don't come cheap." Ryan pulled up another display. "And this is interesting. I still have contacts in Earth Force intelligence. There's been unusual activity around Orwellian diplomatic channels. Lot of credits moving through shadow accounts." "They found me," John said simply. "And they sent their best," Ryan agreed. "Question is, what do we do now?" Lucy's device beeped. She checked it and frowned. "Perimeter alert. Something just flew over the north field, too small for a transport." Ryan moved to a window and scanned the area with a pair of binoculars. "Surveillance drone. Doesn't match any colonial models." John joined him at the window. "They found us already?" "Farm's registered in my mother's maiden name," Ryan said. "They must have tracked your movement from the colony." "Which means they'll be coming soon," Lucy concluded, checking her weapon. Ryan nodded grimly. "Good thing we've got time to prepare. And they don't know what they're walking into." John looked around the room at the weapons and tactical displays. For the first time since the attacks began, he felt a flicker of hope. He wasn't alone anymore. And if the assassins wanted him, they'd have to face 3 trained Earth Force veterans. "Let's get ready," John said, reaching for one of the rifles Ryan offered him. "I'm tired of running." Night fell over the farm as John, Lucy, and Ryan prepared for the coming attack. The house sat dark, with only the faint blue glow of security screens providing light inside. Outside, the fields were quiet under the twin moons of New Centauri. "They'll come after midnight," Ryan said as he checked the power cells in his rifle. "That's when they think we'll be tired and slow." John nodded, examining the farm's layout on a small tablet. "I've set up some surprises in the fields, used parts from Ryan's old equipment." Lucy raised an eyebrow. "What kind of surprises?" "Motion sensors connected to farm machinery. Step in the wrong place, and you'll trigger anything from lights to noise to some nasty shocks." John's eyes had a focused intensity that hadn't been there before. The quiet repair technician was gone, replaced by the military engineer. Ryan grinned. "Reminded me why engineers were the most feared people in Earth Force. Give them a box of scraps and they'll build something that kills you." "I also rigged the irrigation pipes to spray coolant if triggered," John added. "In case our shape-shifting friend returns. Extreme cold disrupts their molecular structure." Lucy checked the security feeds one more time. "Nothing yet, but that drone definitely found us. They're coming." Ryan handed each of them a small earpiece. "Comms, stay in touch. We spread out, use the farm's defenses. Don't try to be heroes." Soft beeping sound came from one of the screens. Ryan checked it and nodded grimly. "Motion at the perimeter. Northfield. They're here." Through the security camera, they saw a tall figure moving through the crops. It was the shapeshifter, but partially transformed. Its arms had become long blades, and its face was featureless except for large eyes. "That's our Voldaran," John said. "But where's the other one?" "And there's supposed to be 3 assassins," Lucy reminded them. "The Skrill, the shapeshifter, and one more." The screen suddenly flickered and went dark. Then another screen went out. One by one, the security systems shut down. "They're jamming us," Ryan said, grabbing his weapon. "Must be the 3rd assassin." A new voice spoke from the shadows of the room. "Correct, human." They spun around to see a figure standing in the corner, half organic, half machine. Red eyes glowed in a metal face. Various weapons protruded from its arms. Dexra, the figure said. I disabled your primitive security systems 3 minutes ago. John raised his weapon, but the cyborg moved with incredible speed, knocking it from his hands. Lucy fired her blaster, but the shot sparked harmlessly off the cyborg's armored body. The Orvelians paid well for you, John Miller, Dexra said. Your friends were not part of the contract, but they have chosen their fate. Ryan threw a small device at the cyborg. It stuck to Dexra's chest and beeped rapidly. The cyborg looked down in surprise as electricity arced across its body. The lights in its eyes flickered, but didn't go out. A decent attempt, Dexra said, pulling the device off. But my systems have multiple backups. John had used the distraction to reach under a table. He pulled out what looked like a small engine part and pressed a button on its side. A high-pitched whine filled the room. Dexra froze, its mechanical parts suddenly locking up. What is this? Electromagnetic pulse-focused frequency, John explained, advancing on the paralyzed cyborg. Targets the specific metal alloys used in high-end cybernetics. I recognized your model when you appeared. Outside, explosions and flashes of light erupted from the fields as the shapeshifter triggered John's traps. Screams echoed through the night. Your friends aren't having much fun either, Ryan said, retrieving his weapon. Lucy approached the frozen cyborg, her blaster aimed at its head. How long will it stay like this? Not long enough, John said. We need to move. As if to confirm his words, Dexra's fingers began to twitch. Its eyes flickered back to full brightness. John grabbed a larger device from behind a cabinet. I was saving this for emergencies. What is it? Lucy asked. Something that will buy us time, John replied as he activated the device. Run, now. John, Lucy, and Ryan sprinted from the farmhouse as the device began to emit a high-pitched whine. They dove behind a thick stone wall just as the windows of the house exploded outward. A pulse of blue energy spread across the farm in a perfect circle. What was that? Lucy asked, peeking over the wall. EMP bomb, but stronger, John replied. It targets synthetic materials and alien tech. Their weapons, communication devices, and cybernetic parts will be fried. Ryan pointed toward the fields. Look. The shapeshifter stumbled out of the crops, its body rippling uncontrollably. Parts of it seemed frozen in mid-transformation, while others melted like wax. It screamed in a voice that didn't sound like any single species. From the smoking doorway of the farmhouse, Dexra staggered out. Most of its cybernetic parts were dark and lifeless. The organic parts of its face showed pain and rage. Now, Ryan said, raising his rifle. The weapon was old and simple, with mechanical parts rather than energy components. The EMP hadn't affected it. All three fired at once. The shapeshifter took multiple hits and collapsed, its body finally settling into a bizarre, half-formed shape before going still. Dexra, however, managed to dive behind a farm vehicle. It's still dangerous, John warned. Even without tech, these assassins are trained killers. A movement caught Lucy's eye. Above us, the Skrill assassin Zarketh had appeared on the roof of a storage building. Despite its wounded exoskeleton, it launched itself directly at them. Poisonous appendages extended. John grabbed a metal pipe from the ground and swung it like a bat. It connected with the alien's head with a sickening crunch. 2 of its 12 eyes burst from the impact. The Skrill rolled across the ground but quickly regained its feet. You destroyed my hive, brothers, it hissed in broken human language. 6,000 warriors. Their eggs never hatched. It was war, John replied, keeping the pipe between them. You attacked Earth colonies first. And now it is personal war. Zarketh spat, circling John. Ryan aimed his rifle, but Lucy stopped. Him. Wait. This is his fight. The Skrill rushed forward. John sidestepped and brought the pipe down hard on its wounded exoskeleton. The crack spread wider. Blue fluid poured out. With incredible speed, the alien wrapped a limb around John's ankle and pulled. John fell hard but managed to roll away from the poisonous stinger that struck the ground where his chest had been. John kicked out, connecting with the Skrill's wounded chest. More blue fluid sprayed out. The alien screeched but didn't slow down. It jumped on top of John, mandibles clicking near his face. John grabbed the alien's head and twisted with all his strength. There was a final crack, and the scakreel went limp. John pushed the heavy body off him and stood shakily. A shot rang out. John turned to see Dexra fall face first into the dirt, a smoking hole in its back. Ryan lowered his rifle. "The third one was trying to sneak up on you," he explained. Lucy checked all 3 alien bodies. "They're dead. All of them." As dawn broke, over the farm the 3 humans gathered on the porch of the damaged farmhouse. Lucy treated John's new cuts and bruises while Ryan salvaged what he could from inside. "What happens now?" Lucy asked. "Word will spread," John said. 3 of the galaxy's best assassins defeated by humans. The bounty on my head will be withdrawn. No one will want to risk it. "You could come work for Colonial Security," Lucy suggested. "We could use someone with your skills." John smiled, for the first time in days. "I might like that. Better than hiding in a repair shop." Ryan emerged from the house with 3 bottles. "Salvage the important stuff. Earth whiskey. We should celebrate being alive." As they watched the twin suns rise higher, a message arrived on Ryan's communication device. His contacts in Earth Force intelligence reported unusual activity in Orwellian space. Their entire assassination budget had been suddenly redirected to defensive systems. "Looks like they're more afraid of you now than seeking revenge," Ryan said, showing John the message. John took a sip of whiskey and felt the weight of the past 5 years lifting from his shoulders. "Maybe now I can stop running and start living. Again." Lucy's hand found his. "I'd like to see that." Around them, the farm began to stir with morning life. The danger had passed. The assassins had failed. And the galaxy had been reminded once again why humans were a species you underestimated, at your own peril.